Good morning, children. It's the last week before summer, so this is the last video that I'm going to be making for you. I've enjoyed doing them, but I'm really looking forward to actually seeing you in person in September, and I know all the other teachers at St Joseph's also are. But in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with this little activity. I've done it a couple of times and it's really fun. It uses things that you find lying around at home. It makes something really pretty, and there's also some cool science behind it as well. So let's get started. I'm going to teach you today how to make a lava lamp using things that you have in your house. So the first thing you're going to need is some kind of jar or bottle. You can use, I've got this jar that had some pickles in it, but you could use an old pop bottle, or you could use anything with a lid is important. So that's going to be our lava lamp. The next thing you're going to need is some oil. I got this cheap oil, it was £1. So not too expensive. You might have some lying around, but as always, make sure you ask the adults in your house before you start helping yourself to their stuff. Oil is really, really gloopy, and so if it gets on your skin and your clothes, it's really hard to get off. So you should do this with an adult, or at least tell them that you're doing it. If you can't find a jar, by the way, you can always take some of the oil out of the oil bottle, and you can use this. So jar, oil. You will need some water, just drinking water, room temperature. You will need some food colouring. I've got green because I think it's cool and really icky. And you will need an effervescent tablet. So Alka-Seltzer is the brand name of one of them. Any kind of tablet that you put in water and it fizzes is fine. You can use anything like that. So let's see how we make our lava lamp. So the first thing we need to do is get our jar or our bottle. Take the lid off. I'm going to put it up here so you can see what's going on in my lava lamp. So the first thing we need to do is fill it up, the jar, about 3/4 of the way. Now it's worked out really well for me because in my bottle of oil I've got 500 millilitres and this jar is 700 millilitres. So I can more or less put all of this oil into this jar, a little bit less than all of it, and then top the rest up with water, and that will be fine. If you were going to use the bottle that the oil came in, then you would want to pour out about 25%, about 1/4 of this bottle. So whatever size you get, you need to do a bit of maths there. You need to work out 3/4 and 1/4. So I'm going to take the lid off my oil. I'm being really careful with this oil because it is gloopy, it does get places. If you're using a pop bottle or a milk bottle or something like that, you might want to use a funnel just so that you can get the oil in, or do it really carefully, or ask an adult. So I'm going to pour my oil in to my jar like this. So I'm going to leave a little bit in there because remember this was 500 and this was 700. So I need to leave enough space for 1/4 of water. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that for now. Now, this is where a bit of science comes in. So I need to put water into my jar, and I'm going to leave a little gap at the top. And I want you to watch what happens when I put my water into my jar. Can you see that it's a lighter colour at the bottom? It's very, very it's transparent at the bottom, and it's kind of oily colour at the top. I'm not sure if you can see that. So what's happened there is the two liquids have separated. All of the water has gone to the bottom, and all of the oil has gone to the top. And that would have happened no matter which order I did that. If I'd put the water in first and put the oil in afterwards, the oil would have always gone on top. And that's because water is, we call it denser. It's more dense than oil, which just means it's heavier. So it's always going to sink below. And you can kind of see that if you see oil on water, if you put some drops of oil on a bit of water, you'll see that it always floats on the top of the water because it's lighter than the water, so it floats. Okay, first bit of science. So we've got water and we've got oil. So the next thing we need to do is put a few drops of food colouring. Looks nice. Okay. Careful with this as well, because if it gets on your clothes, it will stain. If it gets on your nice tea towels, if it gets anywhere, it stains. So be really careful with this. And just a couple of drops I want. And you can see, if you watch it carefully, it's staying in its drop, doesn't it? Can you see that? So it's staying in these little blobs, and it's also sinking to the bottom. And that's because food colouring is the same density, which means it's the same weight, it weighs the same as the water, so it's heavier than the oil. So what we've got now is the water, and we've got the food colouring at the bottom, and we've got the oil at the top. Let me see if I can give you a bit of a close-up look, because you can see that the food colouring is actually sitting on top of all the water there. It's trapped in there. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is add our effervescent tablet. So effervescent just means it's fizzy. So if you don't have these, they're quite cheap, and you often will have them in your house somewhere. If you ask your parents, don't go rummaging around the medicine cabinet, and ask your parents first, or your adults. If you don't have this, there is an alternative recipe for this whole thing where you would use vinegar and water, and then you would add baking powder and water, and that would do the same thing, but we're going to use this. So the important thing is I take one tablet. Normally you would put this in water, it would fizz, and you would drink it, and then it would stop you from having a headache, toothache, sore throat, nerve pain, or cold and flu. So it's a paracetamol. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this into a few pieces. Yep. And I'm going to put those into my mixture of oil, water, and food colouring. And I think you can probably predict what's going to happen, but let's see. Okay, so I'm going to start putting those in now. Okay. You know this, so I can see on this side it's starting to fizz. I'll try and move it closer to you. So it's fizzing away now. It's fizzing away. And hopefully what we want to see is some of the green blobs coming up and down. Let's see. It's kind of working. So can you see? So it's going, it's quite hard to see on the video, but what's happening is the green blobs are going up to the top, and then they're going down, and then they're going up, and then they're going down, and then they're going up. And it's calmed down a little bit now, but they're still doing it. Do you know what? I might give it a little, just to see what happens. I'm going to agitate it a bit and see if that does something. Kind of. So you can't really see it on my video, but these bubbles are going up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. And the science behind this is that, as we said earlier, the water is heavier than the oil, and so is the food colouring. But what happens when you put your effervescent tablets in is they dissolve in the water, and they start to release carbon dioxide, which is the same thing that's in your fizzy drinks when you open it, and it fizzes. So we've got carbon dioxide gas being released in the bottom, in the water, and because the gas is lighter than the oil and the water, it's going up through the oil, and it's bringing the green with it, and then when it gets to the top, the gas is released out of the top, and then the green is heavier again, and it goes to the bottom, and then it picks up some more carbon dioxide gas, and it goes up to the top, and then the gas is released, and then the water and the food colouring goes down again. And it's a cycle, and it will keep going until all of the Alka-Seltzer, all of the effervescence tablets is gone. I don't know why, but when I've done it before, there's been definite green blobs going up and down, but for some reason It's not doing so well today. I can see the bubbles going up and down, but I can't see the green blobs, which is interesting. I wonder why that is. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to do that. It's pretty easy to do. It took 5 minutes. Remember, ask your adults if you can use the oil and be really careful with it. The same with the food colouring. And I think that's a cool thing to do. It looks good. You can add some glitter into there. You could try different colours. Have a little experiment with that. Okay, good luck. Have a great summer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you in September time. See ya.